Listen.
Alright, so my last video actually got some decent reception, quite surprising, and there's just so many people who commented about how they need help for the DSAT in general, and yeah, I'm just here to talk about one of the most powerful resources I've actually recently found online. So the other day, I was searching up resources for you guys because comment section was actually like blowing up, and of course it was on Reddit. Yeah, I found like this Google Drive folder that was practically packed with like everything you need for studying. Like it had like a complete arsenal. It was like thousands of SAT test bank questions. They're all categorized. There's PDFs of like premium books. I'm talking like Princeton Review, Kaplan. There's SAT Panda. There's Vibrant Publisher. Like there's so many different things. There's like logs that the guy made where you can track the incorrect answers that you did, and you can write the solutions under it. And then there's like math guides, writing guides, grammar guides, and there's like multiple books for each of those categories. And then there's another 2 Google Drives I found, one with like a lot of past full-length practice DSAT tests, and then after that there's Princeton Review tests, and then there's like solutions to all of those in those Google Drives. But yeah, so basically in this video, I'm just going to be giving you a little tour of the Google Drive and then telling you how I would personally approach it and what order I would do it and which books I would read first. So in this Google Drive, like depending on where you are, there's a lot of advice, but it can vary, because my general path for people who have like a decent amount of time to study would just be doing the math guides and then the grammar guides and then the reading guides, and then moving on to like the Kaplan, Princeton Review, and Barron's questions, which all do set a higher bar for difficulty. And then finally moving on to the test bank, where it's going to be a lot easier after you did those Princeton Review and Kaplan questions, and then moving on to the full-length practice tests. But if you're like me and like you're not trying to do all that and read those books, you can honestly just take the practice test and the Princeton Review questions like immediately, use the logs to track your incorrect answers, and if you really have a topic you're struggling on, like if there's one of these specific math portions, I find a lot of people struggle on geometry, you can just take a look at one of the guides that are attached. They're premium books where you were actually supposed to buy them on Amazon, but I think this guy just like threw PDFs on the Google Drive. I'm sure he's not afraid of being like copyright strike, but yeah. Okay, so I'll start off with the English section of this SAT Google Drive, and if you take a look at the link that I attached, there's math books, logs, general workbooks, and the section I'll be talking about is English books. So there's 4 different choices for you here. There's the Vibrant Publishers English Question Bank, and this is more of like a thing where you do at the end. There's the Power Score Vocab Guide, and then there's these 2 books by Erica Meltzer, a great author for the SAT, both for reading and writing. And personally, I've just taken like a quick skim of these, and I also looked online at Reddit to see which ones of these like are actually worth your time. And I think the general scene on Erica Meltzer is that it's good. People use it for ACT and SAT English, but a lot of the questions are recycled from like previous versions of the book. And there's like no specific syntax and structure for the new test, like the digital. So it just kind of feels like off compared to the official materials right now. And also like the practice modules in her book of the practice test have like questions in the wrong order too. And it just like, it feels like she hasn't even read like the full assessment specifications for the DSAT. But otherwise, like it's a decent choice. And if you have a lot of time on your hands, I would just take a look at these 2 books. I would start off with the grammar, because grammar is obviously more easy to learn than reading, because it's based off of a set of rules, and reading is more of just your intuition. And after you finish grammar and reading, obviously you can do the one you're weaker at, but still you can finish with grammar and reading, and then I would immediately just start jumping into the questions, because honestly the Power Score vocab has 700 SAT common SAT words, and although there's a lot of good reviews on Amazon and online about this book, I still feel like it's not really worth your time studying vocab unless you're like really stingy about those 20 points that you can get. It's not worth your time. And as for Vibrant Publishers, just this company in general, I also took a look online, and I think this one Redditor said it really well. He said, quote, "They are fine, and like any other SAT resource that is not Collegeboard, they aren't perfect. Some questions won't be applicable to the actual test, some will have mistakes, and some will be unnecessarily complex or too simplistic. But they will be still useful as long as you can apply them to the necessary tactics." So this is like basically the same view on most SAT premium books that you can buy online. Like they always have mistakes, save for like maybe the Princeton Review, and they're always like, you know, they all have some unnecessary complex things that you won't actually have to use on the test. They're all a little bit harder. But yeah, I would start off with the grammar, then the reading, and then I would jump over to the English question bank. And if you have spare time, if you really want to get those points, you can hit it with vocab. And then there's the math section. So for math, it's a similar scene here. You have 3 textbooks. Actually, some of these aren't even textbooks, they're just problems. But you have the Manhattan Review, of College Panda, and Vibrant Publishers. The thing about this is that it says this is for the digital SAT. However, if you take a look at these textbooks, this one's from 2016 and College Panda's from 2015. And like, to be fair, math hasn't changed as much as reading and writing when you transferred from paper to digital, because you're not changing something from like a whole passage to separate passages, right? It's testing the same formulas. So I would say these are still decent study materials, especially considering College Panda has great reviews online. Like, a lot of people said it helped them get 750 plus scores on their SAT from it. But yeah, I also read online, it was just side note, people said that the 1600.io site was a lot more useful than College Panda. So if you want to check that out, but apparently it's like a premium course, maybe it has to be paid. So yeah, I don't want to spend money on SAT tutoring, so I guess that's not worth it. Manhattan Review, what I've heard so far is that it's kind of like, it's kind of hard, kind of complex. A lot of things you learn inside the book doesn't actually apply to the SAT, but obviously doing harder questions is going to benefit you. So it really depends on how you like to study. And Vibrant Publishers, like, once again, there's a lot of wrong things. There's a lot of like questionable things they test you on, kind of the same for Manhattan Review. But for math, it's obviously a lot better because it's not like reading or analyzing passages. It's a lot more straightforward. So Vibrant Publishers is probably a decent choice. So if I were to study, I would just go straight to College Panda, then I would just do some Vibrant Publishers for math. And after you finish looking over the books, and that's like completely optional, by the way. If I were the person studying, I would just completely skip over these and jump straight into the general workbooks because I'm lazy and I don't want to read things. But everybody has their own way of studying. So if you're done with those books and you take a look at these general workbooks over here, these are the three that I was talking about earlier: the Princeton Review, Kaplan, Barron's. These are all like well-known names in the SAT world. And my favorite personally is the Princeton Review. Kaplan is great. Barron's is a little harder, at least from like what I've seen. Well, actually, all three of these are really difficult compared to actual SAT questions, and please don't measure yourself based off of what you get on these diagnostic tests, because when I did that, I ended up with like 1480s, 1520s, and I was like, well, I'm scoring a lot better on the Blue Book one, so I was really confused. But yeah, when you're finished with those books, I would run over here and just do these like on your own time. There's really no order. Like, I feel like all three of these are great options. And like, if you're even lazier, or like if you're just not feeling it, you can just straight up jump into the College Board question bank. Like, look at this. I don't even know how to go through this, but they have like like a PDF for every single type of question, like words in context. Where there's 3 words in context. There's what I don't even know what this text structure, rhetorics, punctuation, transition, inferences, rhetorical synthesis, like, and then there's math stuff. There's like geometry. There's command of evidence for reading. There's algebra, and like if you just take a look at like one of these PDFs, like actually no, this is the solutions for something. Hold up. If you just take a look at one of these PDFs, like 74 pages of problems, like that's insane. Do you know how many problems are in here? Like, that's another 74 pages right there. Let's see. This is 84 pages. And then this is 84 pages. Like, this is, I don't even know how many problems are in here, but this is a great Google Drive. That's all I'm gonna say. And that would probably just be the last thing you use. And then there's this other thing called logs. I couldn't open some of these docs files for some reason, but from at least what I saw is that the person was using these logs to like log their mistakes. That's why it's called logs. They would paste the screenshot of a problem that we're struggling on. And then they would also just paste solutions under it. And that's kind of what I did for the reading section back when I was studying for the SAT. I would take the problems that I struggled on and I would paste them all into a Google Doc with solutions, and I would just consistently come back and do those problems again. So when I ran into similar ones, I could transfer what I learned onto those problems. But yeah, that's like this Google Drive, and then there's this like 29 question verbal test. I'm not sure what that is. And then there's 2 more Google Drives which I want to show you. And one of them has practice tests for Princeton Review and solutions. And then the other one has actual digital full-length SAT tests. Okay, so never mind. There's 3 Google Drives, 3 other Google Drives. That's my bad. I forgot about another one of them, but I'm not sure if you want to use it because the third one is one called New SAT Practice Test, but the guy uploaded these on Google Drive in 2016. So they're obviously not the digital, but I mean, look, this is another like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 practice tests full length that you can use. So yeah, well, why not, right? And then there's the digital SAT over here. So this is the one that has the Princeton Review, Kaplan, and Barron's, like I said before. And I'm not sure like how it compares to those books in the original Google Drive over here, like these general workbooks, but I'm assuming that these are different ones. And yeah, they have the answer and explanations attached to the actual Princeton Review or Barron's full-length tests. And then over here you have the one that I was talking about earlier, the digital SAT official College Board practice tests. And then they have, what is this? The test and then the key and then the answer explanations for 4 different ones. And I'm not sure what this is actually. Oh, this is like how to score the test. Well, I'm sure you guys know how to do that already. But yeah, like those are the 4 Google Drives I found online. I'm sure that's like enough problems to keep you company for at least a week, depending on how try hard you are. But yeah, and before I go, I'd just like to tell you another one of my studying strategies that I mentioned in my previous video. So whenever I get bored, whenever I don't want to like study, like I just don't feel like doing any work, I literally just stare at this wall in front of me, like this wall right here, this green painted wall for 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. By the time I finish those like 300 seconds, I'm just so dopamine deprived. Like, man, I'd rather do like anything else than stare at the wall anymore. And when I open up like the SAT thing that I used, I was like, damn, this is interesting, right? But finally, I get to do something. So that's the strategy that I use, just like basically like depriving myself of dopamine, and then I'll be able to lock in for like 30 minutes. But then comes the hurdle of getting yourself to stare at the wall in the first place, because then, it's kind of like a paradox, because you need something to deprive you of dopamine to do something that is depriving you of dopamine in the first place. So like, yeah, well, whatever. I'm just gonna stop talking. But yeah, take that advice with a grain of salt. And I love you guys. Thanks for supporting me after I posted my first video, and I'll see you in the future.